Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. At AM 630.
Good morning, everybody. 7:38 on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk. Coming up in just a few moments at 8:05, we're going to be talking to Jake Tapper from CNN. And I want to mention, of course, a lot of people wake up wondering, well, what's going on? Am I going to work? Am I not going to work? Well, federal government's opening 2 hours late. Some jurisdictions, some school jurisdictions are closed. Some are opening late. If you want to sort all that out, I would recommend just go to our website, WMAL.com. We're keeping a complete and accurate list there, and that's the best way. We'll say that we're hearing some stories about these trees in the area that are heavy with ice, that where limbs are breaking. For example, the BW Parkway's got a problem. The Suitland Parkway has had a problem, although it's cleaned up. And that also, because of that, some people are losing their power. We're on it. We'll keep you up to date. Stay right here at WMAL. We'll give you all the latest information as it comes available. I'm Brian Wilson, and in-house today is Dan Bongino, not just a Secret Service agent, former Secret Service agent, not just a guy who runs for political office. He is Dan Bongino, New York Times best-selling author.
Yeah. Well, I get a round of applause.
You get a round of applause.
Very nice. Well, thank you.
Listen, Dan, that is one heck of an accomplishment.
Yeah, we were surprised.
And we've had you on the show many times. You fill in here a lot at WMAL. We're always pleased to have you. We think the world of you.
Surprised you keep letting me back in.
Yeah, we do. Well, we have, our standards are not very high. But I want to say that, we have really not had a chance to sit down and talk about your book. So we wanted to just stop for a moment and talk about it. Tell me a little bit about the book. It is entitled Life Inside the Bubble: Why a Top-Ranked Secret Service Agent Walked Away from It All. Now, first of all, ghostwriter?
No, every single word is written by me. No ghostwriter, no co-writer, nothing. I refused to do that. I wanted people to really get kind of an insight into what's going on. And
so how long did it take you to actually sit down at the computer and bang this out?
It was about 6 months or so. You have to commit to about 2,000 words a day, and it's really hard because some days, Brian, writer's block is very real. Yeah. There are some days you just cannot come up with an idea. And then there was one weekend in particular, I'm with my wife and I were supposed to go out, and I said, Paula, I'm sorry, I can't leave. I just was on fire, and I wound up writing, I think in 2 days, something like 15,000 words, and those were actually the last 3 chapters of the book. I was just on fire.
And so you got in the groove and you didn't want to stop.
Yeah, you don't, because when you stop, it's over, and I remember just going through like 2 pots of coffee and just knocking it out.
Yeah.
But the title is the most interesting part.
Well, why did you walk away from it all?
Well, there comes that time in everybody's life, I don't know, they call it midlife crisis or whatever it may be. It's got all kinds of different names where you say, is this it? Is this the best I can do? And I was very proud to be a Secret Service agent. I loved the job. I loved the agency. They were very good to me. I loved the people there. But I just felt like the country was in a really rough place. And, I know I don't want to be melodramatic, but I said to my wife, I need to do something. And it took me a while to figure out what that was. But, the old Plato line, right? If you don't get involved in politics, you're destined to be ruled by people lesser than you. So I decided that instead of talking about, changing the country, I was going to try some. And walking away, Brian, was not easy, believe me.
Yeah, because you were at the top of your game at the Secret Service.
Yeah, I was doing very well. I had just left. And oddly enough, the hardest part of any Secret Service agent's career, and most of the guys listening right now know this, is the protective detail. I mean, you're living someone else's life, or it's about a 5-year assignment. If you're protecting Brian Wilson, it's not your life. If Brian Wilson says, I'm going to, go out to Virginia after this trip, then you're not going home at 2, 3 o'clock or whatever. You're following you to Virginia. So that was over. I was done. I was up in the Baltimore field office, 9 to 5, or as much as we could stick to that schedule. Great supervisors, great coworkers, nice gym. I like to work out, good food around there. Love Baltimore. I had an office, looked right down over Camden Yards, and it just couldn't do it. I knew I had to do something different. But giving up the health benefits and the pension was really a tough call. All
right. So what was it that you observed as a Secret Service agent that sort of informed your opinion about the way government works?
It's a system rigged for insiders. And I know everybody's heard that before, and okay, this isn't groundbreaking news. I get that, folks. But what I explain in the book is I use this law enforcement scenario in federal law enforcement, an example of what's really wrong. And I talk about the trade-offs that are made at your expense. And there's a real danger to that, Brian. I mean, people are really getting hurt. And when I talk about the Boston bombing, I talk about missed signs that are not a function of lazy federal agents. That's not the case. The men and women I work with were the cream of the crop, the tip of the spear, the best people I've ever met.
Very sharp.
Very sharp. It's a function of bureaucratic mismanagement at its worst. And I describe very specific trade-offs that are made to preserve a failing system and not fix it. I mean, in the private sector, Brian, this would never stand. If that was the case at the radio station and we weren't producing, we'd all be out of a job. But that's not how it works in government. And I try to stay away from hitting the Secret Service too hard because they're good men and women, and they're certainly not unique in their troubles there. It's government-wide. But people ask me all the time on the campaign trail, and that was one of the reasons I decided to roll with the book. They would say, why did you leave? And that's ironically how we came up with the title. We were sitting there, me and the publisher, were like, what do we call this book? What do we call this book? So Life Inside the Bubble popped, and he goes, what do you want a subtitle to be? I said, well, the subtitle should say something like, why a top-ranked Secret Service agent walked away from it all. The guy goes, there you go.
There you go.
Well, why do we got to dance? That's your subtitle.
Yeah.
Just put it in there.
So now, of course, you were in the protective service, and you protected Barack Obama.
I did.
Now, how much of that can you talk about?
A very little. I try to keep it in a big umbrella terms, and I want to be very specific. My critiques in the book are directed in a bipartisan fashion. It's not just what happened under President Obama, and I'm certainly not in the room as they're negotiating over Obamacare. It's just really the D.C. environment, being around it and seeing this carousel of insiders sell you out on a daily basis that really wears you down as a normal middle-class guy.
All right, you've been through one campaign. You decided to go again.
Yeah, I know. Another campaign. I like it. I enjoy talking to people. I'm a chatty Cathy. It's probably why radio works out well for me, too. So I've had a good experience there. I'm at it one more time. This is probably going to be my wife and I. Our fund meters are kind of pegged, but we feel like we owe it to the citizens of Maryland, and we enjoy it.
All right. Well, listen, the name of the book, again, is Life Inside the Bubble, Why a Top-Ranked Secret Service Agent Walked Away from It All. It is on the New York Times bestseller list, which is, I'm telling you, that's a heck of an accomplishment.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Dan Bongino. Glad to have you in today.